At 11:52 on a Thursday night, my phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I almost ignored it. After all, I had spent the last 5 years learning how to live without hearing from my daughter. No Father's Day call. No birthday message. Not even a simple text when my younger brother died. 5 years of silence can teach a man many things. It can teach you how to eat dinner alone, how to stop checking your phone every few minutes, how to walk past your daughter's old bedroom without opening the door. And most painfully, it can teach you how to stop expecting the person you love most to come back. Then I saw the name on the screen. Claire. My daughter. My hand froze above the phone. For 5 years, I had imagined 100 different ways she might contact me again. Maybe she'd say she was sorry. Maybe she'd say she missed me. Maybe she'd simply write, "Dad, can we talk?" Instead, the first message I received from her in 5 years began with 3 words that nearly broke me. Bring $175,000. I read the message once, then twice, then a third time because my mind refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. "Dad, I saw your post about the car. We need to talk. I'll meet you at the Hawthorne Room Saturday at 7. Bring $175,000 with you. If you don't, there's no reason for you to come." I slowly lowered myself into the kitchen chair. That was it. Not "I miss you." Not "How have you been?" Not even "I'm sorry." My daughter had finally come back into my life with a price attached. And somehow, the part that hurt most wasn't the money. It was the tiny piece of me that still whispered, maybe this is her way of coming home. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 61 years old, and for 29 years, I believed being a father meant you never stopped showing up. Even when your child stopped appreciating it, even when they pushed you away, even when they convinced themselves you were the enemy. Claire hadn't always been like this. There was a time when she would race through the front door after school, throw her backpack onto the floor, and yell, "Dad, you're home." There was a time when she thought I could fix anything. Flat tire? Dad could fix it. Broken bicycle? Dad could fix it. Bad dream at 3 in the morning? Dad would sit beside her bed until she fell asleep. I remembered all of that while staring at her message. And then I remembered the last night I had seen her. She was 24, standing in this same house, angry because I refused to empty my retirement account to help finance a business idea her boyfriend had invented. She had screamed that I cared more about money than my own daughter. I told her I loved her. She told me if I really loved her, I would prove it with a check. Then she walked out. The door slammed so hard that one of our family photographs fell from the wall. I waited for her to come back. 1 day, then 1 week, then 1 month. 5 years passed. And now she was back. Not because she missed me. Not because she regretted leaving. She wanted $175,000. I should have deleted the message. I should have blocked the number. Instead, I stared at those words until my eyes burned. Because beneath the anger, beneath the humiliation, beneath everything Claire had done, there was still a father hoping his little girl had finally come back. I didn't know it then, but that desperate little hope was about to lead me straight into the biggest trap of my life. And before Saturday night was over, I would discover exactly why my daughter suddenly needed that money. But the person waiting beside her at that restaurant was the last man on earth I ever expected to see. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, because I was afraid. A father can survive being hated by his child. What he struggles to survive is the possibility that his child is walking towards something dangerous, and he may be the only person who sees it. By Friday morning, I'd made my decision. I was going to the dinner. Not because I intended to give Claire the money. I wasn't giving anyone $175,000. I was going because I needed to see my daughter with my own eyes. I needed to know why, after 5 years of silence, she suddenly wanted me sitting across from her. And I needed to meet the man she apparently trusted more than her own father. His name was Ethan Cole. Claire had mentioned him during our brief phone conversation. She sounded different when she talked about him. Proud. Almost defensive. She told me he worked as a private wealth advisor for a rapidly growing financial firm downtown. Successful. Ambitious. Well-connected. The kind of man who, according to Claire, understood how money really worked. That last sentence stayed with me. So after breakfast, I opened my laptop. I told myself I was only curious. A normal father would want to know something about the man his daughter was planning to marry. The first results looked impressive. Ethan wore tailored suits. He appeared in photographs beside businessmen twice his age. His company website talked about private investments, exclusive clients, and financial growth. There were photographs from charity events, awards, handshakes, expensive watches. Everything looked polished, almost too polished. Then I found something that made me stop scrolling. A civil lawsuit. Ethan's name appeared in a complaint filed nearly 2 years earlier. The case had been settled. I leaned closer to the screen. Maybe it was nothing. People get sued all the time. So I kept searching. Then I found another case. And another. Different names. Different amounts. But the accusations had an uncomfortable similarity. Former clients claimed money had disappeared from accounts they believed Ethan was managing. I sat back. My coffee had gone cold. I kept digging. The company address listed on one filing led to a rented office suite that appeared to be shared by several unrelated businesses. 2 of the supposed senior partners on Ethan's firm's website were nearly impossible to verify. Their names weren't connected to the professional records I expected to find. Then I found something worse. A regulatory filing from only weeks earlier. There was an investigation into the firm's financial activities, and a request to restrict access to certain operating accounts. I read the document twice, then a third time. My stomach tightened. This wasn't a man with a few angry clients. Something much bigger was happening. I started tracing the financial trail. Outstanding debts, property liens, unresolved claims, loans that appeared to be keeping other loans alive. The pattern slowly became impossible to ignore. Ethan wasn't simply wealthy. He might have been pretending to be wealthy. And if I was reading everything correctly, the business was running dangerously close to collapse. Then I understood Claire's message. $175,000. That number wasn't random. It wasn't an inheritance request. It wasn't money for a wedding. It looked like emergency cash. Cash someone needed immediately. And suddenly, the dinner wasn't about reconnecting with my daughter. It was about getting money from me before something fell apart. I printed every document I could find. By evening, I had a thick stack of papers spread across my kitchen table. I stared at them for a long time. I could call Claire. I could warn her. I could call the authorities. I could cancel the dinner. But something stopped me. I wanted to hear Ethan explain himself. More importantly, I wanted Claire to hear the truth from me. Maybe, just maybe, 5 years of silence could end with one honest conversation. I placed the documents into a plain folder. Then I looked at the photograph sitting beside it. Claire at 18. Graduation day. Her arm around my shoulder. That huge smile. The same girl who once believed I could protect her from anything. I whispered, "Please let me still reach you." Saturday arrived too quickly. I put on my old navy jacket and drove toward the Hawthorne Room. Rain tapped against the windshield. I kept both hands on the steering wheel. I wasn't thinking about the money anymore. I was thinking about my daughter. When I entered the restaurant, I spotted Claire immediately. She was sitting in a private booth near the back, and beside her was Ethan. He looked exactly like the photographs. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect smile. But when his eyes met mine, the smile disappeared for just a fraction of a second. And that tiny reaction told me something his expensive website never could. Ethan Cole knew exactly who I was. And judging by the look on his face, he had been expecting me. Claire didn't stand when I approached the table. That hurt more than I expected. 5 years. 5 years without seeing my daughter's face in person, and when I finally stood 3 feet away from her, she barely looked up from her phone. Ethan stood. He extended his hand. Daniel Mercer. Not Dad. Not even Mr. Mercer. Just my name. I shook his hand because my father had taught me that manners mattered, even when other people didn't deserve them. Ethan. His grip was firm. Too firm. The kind of handshake men use when they're trying to establish control before a conversation even begins. "Good to finally meet you," he said. I looked at him. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. Claire finally put her phone down. She looked beautiful. That was the problem. She looked so much like the little girl I remembered that for one dangerous second, I forgot the woman sitting across from me was the same person who had disappeared from my life. Her hair was styled perfectly. Her dress was expensive. There was a diamond on her finger that caught the restaurant lights every time she moved her hand. I stared at it. She noticed. "It's my engagement ring," she said. I figured. Ethan surprised me. "Congratulations." The word came out quieter than I intended. Claire looked away. There was no smile. No emotion. Just an awkward silence between us. A waiter arrived. Ethan ordered a bottle of wine without asking the price. Claire didn't even open the menu. I ordered water. Ethan glanced at me, still watching every dollar. I looked up. Claire's eyes remained on the table. Ethan, she said softly. He smiled. I'm just joking. I knew that kind of joke. It wasn't a joke. It was a test. He wanted to see whether I would defend myself. I didn't. I'd spent 30 years running a precision manufacturing company. I had learned something important during those years. When someone is trying to provoke you, giving them your temper is giving them control. So I simply said, you seem to know quite a bit about me. Ethan leaned back. Claire has told me stories. I looked at my daughter. Has she? That finally made her look at me. Can we please not do this tonight? Do what? Turn everything into a confrontation. I almost laughed. She had invited me to a restaurant after 5 years of silence. She had demanded $175,000. And somehow, I was the one creating tension. But I swallowed it, because I still had hope. That stupid, painful hope. Maybe tonight wasn't about money. Maybe the message had been written badly. Maybe Claire was embarrassed. Maybe she wanted to repair things but didn't know how. Then Ethan reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. He placed a folded document on the table. My stomach tightened. Claire pushed it toward me. Dad, we need to settle something before the wedding. I didn't touch it. What is it? A financial agreement. Ethan answered before she could. Nothing complicated. I looked at him. Then explain it. He smiled. Claire and I are getting married in 6 weeks. We've already made most of the arrangements. The venue, vendors, honeymoon, everything. I waited. And? He glanced at Claire. Then back at me. Claire told me about your financial situation. My chest tightened. My daughter had apparently discussed my money with a man she'd known for less time than I'd been her father. What financial situation? Ethan gave a small laugh. Daniel, let's not pretend. There was something different in his voice now. The charm had disappeared. You own property. You have investments. You sold your company. You drive a very expensive car. I stared at him. Then I looked at Claire. Is that why you contacted me? Her jaw tightened. Dad, this isn't what you think. Then tell me what it is. She took a breath. We need help. There it was. Not I need you. Not I want my father back. We need help. I looked down at the document. How much? Claire's eyes dropped. Ethan answered. 175,000. I already knew the number. Still, hearing him say it felt different. I slowly leaned back. And what exactly am I buying for $175,000? Claire's face changed. Dad. No. I want to understand. Ethan folded his hands. You're helping your daughter establish her future. My daughter? I looked directly at Claire. Is that what I am now? A bank? Her eyes flashed. You always do this. Do what? Make everything about money. I felt something crack inside me. Claire, you are the one who contacted me after 5 years and asked for $175,000. Her eyes filled with anger. Because you're my father. The words hit me. For 1 second, my heart lifted. Then she continued. And fathers are supposed to help their children. I stared at her. There it was. The word that explained everything. Supposed to. Duty. Obligation. Responsibility. But not love. Not forgiveness. Not family. Ethan slid the agreement closer. Sign it tonight, transfer the money tomorrow morning, and everything is settled. I looked at the signature line. Then at Claire. She wasn't looking at me anymore. I reached beneath the table and touched the folder I'd brought with me. The evidence was sitting there. Every lawsuit. Every financial filing. Every warning sign. Everything I'd discovered about the man sitting beside my daughter. I could end this right now. I could open that folder and expose Ethan. But then I saw Claire's face. And I realized something terrifying. If I showed her the truth, she might not believe me. She might choose him anyway. I slowly pulled my hand away from the folder. Before I sign anything, I said, I need to ask you both one question. Ethan smiled. Claire looked up. I leaned forward. Why does a successful financial advisor need $175,000 from his future father-in-law by tomorrow morning? The smile vanished from Ethan's face. And for the first time that night, Claire looked afraid. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The restaurant was still full of ordinary sounds. Forks touching plates. Low conversations. A piano playing somewhere near the bar. But at our table, everything had gone silent. Ethan's eyes stayed on me. Then he smiled again. This time it looked forced. That's a strange question. No, I said. It's a simple one. Claire shifted in her seat. Dad, you don't understand what we're dealing with. Then help me understand. Ethan leaned closer. The money isn't for me. I looked at Claire. She didn't answer. Then whose money is it? Ethan's jaw tightened. It's for the wedding. I almost smiled. The wedding costs $175,000? Not exactly. Then what exactly does it cost? He paused. That pause told me more than his answer would have. Claire finally spoke. We have some expenses that came up unexpectedly. What kind of expenses? She looked at Ethan. Again, always Ethan. And I realized how carefully she had learned to watch him before answering a question. That scared me more than the money. Business expenses, Ethan said. I turned toward him. Business expenses aren't my responsibility. They become your responsibility when your daughter is involved. There it was. The manipulation. I had seen it before. Not from him. From people who knew exactly how to make an obligation sound like love. I looked at Claire. Are you involved in his business? She hesitated. Not officially. My heart sank. Claire. What? Are you involved financially? She looked down. Ethan answered for her. She has some exposure. I felt my stomach turn. Exposure? Investment exposure. I slowly nodded. So you convinced my daughter to put her money into your company. That's not what happened. Then what happened? Ethan's voice became colder. Daniel, you don't know anything about finance. That sentence almost made me laugh. I had spent 32 years building a manufacturing company from a rented garage into a business with dozens of employees. I knew numbers. I knew contracts. More importantly, I knew what it looked like when someone was hiding something. And Ethan was hiding something. I reached into my jacket. Claire's eyes followed my hand. I pulled out the manila folder. I placed it on the table. Ethan's expression changed instantly. Not much. Just enough. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes dropped to the folder. Then came back to me. What is that? Something you should have shown my daughter yourself. Claire stared at the folder. Dad, what are you doing? Trying to save you. Ethan laughed. It wasn't nervous anymore. It was angry. You've been digging into me? I looked at public records. You had no right. I leaned forward. Maybe you're right. Then I lowered my voice. But I had every reason. I opened the folder. The first page was a lawsuit. The second was another complaint. Then a regulatory filing. Then records showing debts and liens. Claire stared at the papers. Her face slowly lost its color. What is this? I pushed the first page toward her. Read it. She didn't touch it. Claire, read it. Her fingers finally moved. She picked up the document. Her eyes traveled down the page. Ethan immediately reached across the table. That's misleading. I looked at him. Then explain it. He didn't. Claire looked up. Ethan? These are old allegations. Are they false? He swallowed. Some of them. Some. Her voice became smaller. I watched her face. That was the moment I realized she didn't know. Not everything. Maybe not even close. And suddenly my anger disappeared. All that remained was fear. The kind of father feels when he realizes his child may have handed her future to someone who never intended to protect it. I turned another page. There's more. Claire's eyes widened. Ethan's hand came down hard against the table. Enough. Several people nearby turned toward us. I didn't flinch. You're going to listen now. Ethan leaned closer. You think you're some kind of hero? No. I looked at Claire. I'm her father. Those words came out quietly, but they carried everything I had been unable to say for 5 years. I know you don't want me in your life. I know you think I abandoned you. I know you believe your mother was right about me. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Don't bring Mom into this. Then don't make me defend myself against things she taught you to believe. She looked away. I softened my voice. Claire, I didn't refuse you 5 years ago because I didn't love you. Her lips trembled. I refused because I knew that business was a disaster. Ethan immediately interrupted. You're twisting history. I ignored him. You were angry because I wouldn't empty my retirement account for a man I barely knew. You told me I didn't care whether you were happy. Claire whispered. You made me feel like I wasn't worth helping. That sentence hit harder than anything Ethan had said. I stared at my daughter. Claire, I needed you. I know. No, you don't. Her eyes finally met mine. I needed my father, and you said no. My throat tightened. There were 1,000 things I wanted to say. That I had spent 5 years wondering whether she was safe. That I kept her old bedroom untouched. That I still had the photograph from her graduation. That every Father's Day, I secretly checked my phone even after convincing myself I shouldn't. But I couldn't say any of it. Not yet. Because the truth was sitting between us. And I knew I had only minutes before Ethan found a way to take control of the conversation again. So I closed the folder. Then I pushed it directly toward Claire. Take this home. Ethan's head snapped toward me. No. I looked at him. I wasn't asking you. Claire stared at the folder. What's in it? Everything you need to know. About Ethan? About the man you're planning to marry. Ethan stood abruptly. The chair scraped against the floor. You're done. I remained seated. Sit down. He stared at me. For the first time, there was no salesman's smile. No polished charm. Just raw anger. Claire looked between us. Then Ethan said something that made my blood run cold. Claire, if he walks out of here with that folder, you lose everything. I looked at my daughter. Her face went completely blank. And that was when I knew. The $175,000 wasn't the real emergency. Something much bigger was about to collapse. I looked at Ethan. Then I looked at Claire. Neither of them spoke. But I didn't need an explanation anymore. I had seen enough. The fear in Claire's face wasn't the fear of a daughter being caught in an argument between her father and fiancé. It was the fear of someone realizing, for the first time, that the life she had trusted might not actually belong to her. I reached for the folder. Ethan's eyes followed it. Give that to me. No. His expression hardened. Daniel, you have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I turned toward Claire. I'm giving you the chance I wish you'd given me 5 years ago. She stared at me. What chance? 5 minutes. Her eyes filled with tears. I tapped the folder. 5 minutes to listen before deciding I'm the enemy. Ethan shook his head. Don't fall for this. I ignored him. Claire, look at these documents. Then ask him whatever you want. I'm not asking you to believe me. I pushed the folder toward her again. I'm asking you to verify it. She reached for it. Ethan grabbed her wrist. It happened so quickly that I was on my feet before I even realized I'd moved. Let her go. Ethan released her. Claire stared at the place where his fingers had been. And for 1 second, something changed in her expression. Not trust. Not yet. But doubt. Ethan noticed it too. Claire, he's trying to manipulate you. I sat down again. No. I'm trying to keep my daughter from making a decision she can't undo. You've been absent for 5 years. That one landed. Claire looked at me. Ethan continued. Where were you when she needed you? I felt the old wound open. But this time, I didn't defend myself. Because Claire had every right to be angry about those 5 years. Even if she didn't know the entire story. I was here, I said. She frowned. What? I was here. I looked directly at her. Every day. Her lips parted. You never called. I tried. She shook her head. You never came. Because you told me not to. Her face changed. Ethan immediately interrupted. That's irrelevant. No, I said. It's everything. I turned toward Claire. 5 years ago, you told me you didn't want me interfering in your life. You told me that if I couldn't support you financially, you didn't want anything from me. Her eyes lowered. I was angry. I know. You should have come anyway. My voice nearly broke. I wanted to. Silence. That was the truth I had never said aloud. I drove past your apartment twice. Claire looked up. What? I sat in the parking lot. Her eyes widened. I almost knocked on your door. Why didn't you? Because I remembered what you said. Her face crumpled. And for the first time that night, I saw the little girl from my memories. Not the woman in the designer dress. Not the daughter demanding money. Just my little girl. But Ethan wasn't going to let that moment last. He reached across the table and grabbed the folder. I caught his wrist. Don't. His eyes narrowed. You have no right to interfere in our marriage. Marriage? I let go of his wrist. You're asking my daughter to marry you while demanding money from her father and hiding lawsuits from her. His face went pale. Claire looked at him. Ethan. He stood. Claire, we're leaving. She didn't move. He looked at her again. Now. Still nothing. That frightened him. I could see it. His control was slipping. And suddenly I understood the real danger. He didn't need Claire to love him. He needed her to obey him. I slowly removed my hand from the folder. Take it. Claire looked at me. What? The folder. She pulled it toward herself. Ethan stared at her. Claire, if you take that, you're choosing him. I shook my head. No. I looked at my daughter. She's not choosing me. I pointed toward the folder. She's choosing the truth. Claire's fingers tightened around it. Ethan's face became cold. Fine. He leaned toward her. Read it. Then he looked at me. You'll regret doing this. I held his gaze. I already regret something. He waited. I said, I regret not looking into you sooner. His jaw tightened. I stood. I reached into my wallet and placed enough cash on the table to cover my untouched meal and Claire's drink. Then I looked at my daughter. She was crying silently now. I wanted to hug her. God, I wanted to. 5 years of missing her had built up inside me like pressure behind a locked door. But I didn't move. Because sometimes loving someone means refusing to make their bad decision easier. I'm not giving you the money, I said. Claire wiped her cheek. Then why did you come? That question almost destroyed me. I looked at her for a long moment. Because you're my daughter. Her face broke. I continued before I lost my courage. I came because even after everything, I still wanted to believe there was something left between us. She whispered, Dad. I shook my head. Don't. My voice cracked. Not unless you mean it. I turned away. Behind me, I heard Claire say my name. I stopped. For half a second, I almost turned around. Then Ethan whispered something to her. I didn't hear the words, but I heard Claire's response. No, just one word. And somehow, after 5 years of silence, that single word gave me more hope than her entire message had. I walked out. Rain had started again. I sat inside my car without turning on the engine. My hands rested on the steering wheel. I wasn't angry. I wasn't victorious. I was devastated. Because walking away from a stranger is easy. Walking away from your own child feels like leaving a piece of yourself behind. I finally started the engine and pulled away. I didn't know whether Claire would read the folder. I didn't know whether she would believe me. And I certainly didn't know what Ethan would do next. But as I drove through the rain, my phone suddenly vibrated. One message. From Claire. I pulled over and looked at the screen. There were only 6 words. Dad, what did you find? I stared at them. Then another message appeared. This one wasn't from Claire. It was from an unknown number. And it contained a sentence that made my blood run cold. You should have stayed out of this, Daniel. I stared at the unknown number for almost a full minute. You should have stayed out of this, Daniel. Rain tapped against my windshield. My engine was running, but I barely heard it. I read the message again. Then I looked at Claire's text. Dad, what did you find? 2 messages. 2 completely different worlds. One came from the daughter I had spent 5 years missing. The other came from someone who apparently knew exactly what I'd been doing. I didn't answer either one. Not yet. I drove home. The moment I stepped through the front door, I locked it behind me. Then I checked the windows. I felt ridiculous doing it. This was my house. My quiet little house where nothing dangerous had ever happened. But fear has a way of making familiar places feel different. I went into the kitchen and opened my laptop. The folder was gone. Claire had it. That meant Ethan knew she had it too. I started searching again. This time, I wasn't looking for Ethan. I was looking for the people around him. Business partners. Previous clients. Company registrations. Anything that could explain why a man supposedly managing wealthy people's investments was suddenly desperate for $175,000. And then I found something I hadn't seen before. A company connected to Ethan had been dissolved nearly a year earlier. Another company had appeared shortly afterward. Same type of business. Different name. Different address. But one of the directors was the same. I kept digging. The deeper I went, the worse it became. There were complaints from people who said they had trusted Ethan with retirement funds. A contractor who claimed he had never been paid. A former employee who had filed a wage dispute. None of those things alone proved everything. But together, they formed a pattern. Then I found a court document mentioning an emergency financial review. I opened it. My stomach dropped. The document described a growing shortage between reported client assets and actual funds. I leaned back. No. I whispered it without realizing. If the figures were accurate, Ethan wasn't simply struggling. He was in serious trouble. And Claire was standing beside him with an engagement ring on her finger. My phone buzzed. Claire. This time I answered. Hello. For several seconds, there was nothing. Then I heard her breathing. Dad. Her voice sounded different. Smaller. Yes. Are you home? Yes. Can I come over? My heart jumped. After 5 years, my daughter was asking to come home. I wanted to say yes immediately. Instead, I asked, where are you? There was a pause. With Ethan. Of course. I closed my eyes. Claire, did you read the folder? I read some of it. And I don't know what to believe. That hurt. But I understood. You don't have to believe me. She went quiet. Then who am I supposed to believe? I had no answer that wouldn't sound like a father begging his daughter to choose him. So I said the only thing I could. Believe the documents. Her breathing changed. Then she whispered, Dad, Ethan says you're trying to destroy us. I haven't destroyed anything. He says you want me to call off the wedding. I want you to know the truth before you marry him. Another silence. Then she asked something that stopped my heart. Did you contact the authorities? No. Why not? I looked at the rain sliding down the kitchen window. Because I wanted you to have a chance to walk away before someone forced you to. She started crying. I didn't know what to say. Dad, I'm here. I don't know what to do. That sentence nearly broke me. Because it was the first time in 5 years she sounded like my daughter again. I sat down. Claire, come home. I can't. Why? She hesitated. Then I heard a man's voice somewhere behind her. Ethan? The line went silent. Claire? Nothing. Then the call ended. I immediately called back. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. I sat there staring at the phone. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But I had no idea how wrong. 2 days passed. No calls. No messages. Nothing. I tried not to obsess. I failed. On Monday evening, I was sitting in my living room watching the local news when the anchor suddenly changed tone. Breaking tonight. I stopped moving. The screen showed a luxury event venue. White flowers. Black vehicles. People standing behind police tape. Then the reporter said a name. Ethan Cole. My entire body went cold. The reporter continued. Federal investigators have arrested local financial advisor Ethan Cole in connection with an alleged investment fraud investigation involving millions of dollars in missing client funds. I couldn't breathe. Then the camera cut to footage from inside the venue. An engagement celebration. Guests dressed in expensive clothes. Music. Champagne. And then chaos. Agents moving through the crowd. People backing away. Someone being handcuffed. And there she was. Claire. My daughter. Still wearing the engagement ring. Her face was frozen in disbelief. I watched as Ethan was led away. Claire tried to follow him. Someone stopped her. She screamed something I couldn't hear. Then the camera zoomed closer. Her face crumpled. She looked completely destroyed. I turned the television off. The room went silent. I sat there in the darkness. I should have felt vindicated. I should have thought, I warned you. Instead, I felt something much worse. I felt like I had failed her. Because I had known the truth. And somehow, I still couldn't protect my daughter from watching the man she loved get arrested in front of everyone she knew. I stayed in that chair for nearly an hour. Then my phone rang. Claire. I stared at her name. My hand hovered over the screen. I didn't know whether she was calling for help or calling to blame me. I answered. I didn't get to say a word. Her voice exploded through the phone. You knew. I closed my eyes. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. You knew this was going to happen. Claire. You knew. I tried to tell you. You ruined my life. That sentence went straight through me. I looked around the dark room. The same room where I'd waited 5 years for her. The same room where I'd kept believing that one day she would come back. And now she was calling me because her entire world had collapsed. But there was something she didn't know. I hadn't told her everything I'd discovered. Because there was one final document in my possession. One document that could explain why Ethan had needed my money so desperately. And when I opened it that night, I realized Claire wasn't the only person Ethan had been using. My name was in the file too. My name was in the file. For several seconds, I couldn't make sense of what I was looking at. Daniel Mercer. There it was, typed into a financial document connected to one of Ethan Cole's companies. My first thought was that Ethan had somehow used my identity. My second thought was worse. Maybe he hadn't. I read the page again. Then I found a reference to an asset Ethan had been trying to secure. An asset that could provide immediate liquidity. My property. My house. I felt the blood drain from my face. That was when everything finally made sense. The $175,000 wasn't the end goal. It was the beginning. Ethan didn't just want my cash. He wanted access to everything behind it. And somehow, Claire had been pulled into the middle of it. I grabbed my phone. I wanted to call her. Before I could, someone knocked on my front door. Once. Then again. Harder. I froze. The house was silent. Then came another knock. This time it sounded desperate. Daniel, I knew that voice. My heart slammed against my ribs. Claire. I walked toward the door, then stopped. For 5 years, I had dreamed about this moment. My daughter standing on the other side of my door. But I had imagined her smiling. Maybe crying. Maybe apologizing. I had never imagined her broken. I opened the door. Claire stood under the porch light. Her makeup was streaked across her face. Her hair was messy. Her expensive dress from the engagement party was wrinkled and stained. The diamond ring was still on her finger. But she kept twisting it nervously as though she couldn't decide whether to remove it. She looked at me, and for 1 second, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "Dad." That one word almost destroyed me. Not because it was dramatic, because I hadn't heard her call me that in 5 years. Her knees nearly buckled. I stepped forward instinctively. "Claire." She grabbed the doorframe. "He's gone." I knew who she meant. Ethan was arrested. I saw. Her eyes filled again. "You knew." I didn't deny it. I knew something was wrong. "You knew he was stealing money." "I suspected." "You knew." Her voice cracked. I let her yell. I let her cry. Because for 5 years, I had wanted her to talk to me. Even if the words hurt. Especially if they hurt. "Why didn't you stop him?" That question hit harder than her anger. I stared at my daughter. "I tried." "No. I tried to warn you. You should have done more. I gave you everything I found. You should have made me listen." Her voice echoed across the porch. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "Claire, I cannot force an adult woman to believe her father. You could have called the police." "I could have. Then why didn't you?" I looked at her. "Because I was trying to save you, not destroy your life." She shook her head. "You ruined everything." "No." My voice became quieter. "Ethan ruined everything." She stared at me. "You're the one who investigated him." "Yes." "You're the one who found all those records." "Yes." "You're the one who gave them to me." "Yes." Her face twisted with pain. "Then you started this." I closed my eyes. There it was. The accusation I had secretly feared. I opened the door wider. "Come inside." She didn't move. I looked at her. "Claire, please." She stepped forward, then stopped just inside the doorway. She looked around the house. Her eyes moved toward the hallway, toward the old photographs, toward the staircase, toward the door of her childhood bedroom. I saw her face change. She remembered. The little things. The life she had abandoned. And suddenly she looked ashamed. "I haven't been here in 5 years." "I know." Nothing changed. I swallowed. "Some things did." She looked at me. "Like what?" "You did." Her face fell. I regretted saying it immediately. But I couldn't take it back. She sat down on the bottom stair. I remained standing. Then she whispered, "I loved him." That sentence was different. Not angry. Not defensive. Just devastated. "I know. I thought he loved me." "I know. He told me you were jealous." I said nothing. "He told me you hated him because you didn't want me to be happy." My chest tightened. "Did you believe him?" She looked at me. "Yes." One word. It carried 5 years of pain. I sat across from her. "Claire, I never hated him." She wiped her face. "Then why didn't you tell me you loved me?" I stared at her. "What?" "You heard me." Her voice became smaller. "Why didn't you come after me?" I couldn't answer immediately. Because there wasn't a good answer. There was only the truth. "You told me you didn't want me." Her eyes filled. I was angry. "I know. I didn't mean it." "I know." "Then why did you believe me?" That broke something inside me. I looked down. "Because you were my daughter." She stared at me. "I thought if I kept forcing my way into your life, I'd lose you forever." Her lips trembled. "So you just let me go?" "No." My voice cracked. "I let you have the distance you demanded." She started crying. And this time I couldn't stay across the room. I moved closer. I wanted to put my arms around her. But I stopped. After 5 years, I didn't know whether I still had that right. Claire noticed. She slowly reached toward me. And then she collapsed against my chest. I wrapped my arms around her. She cried like a child. Not the elegant woman from the restaurant. Not the bride-to-be from the engagement party. My little girl. The same little girl who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during thunderstorms. I held her, and I whispered the words I'd wanted to say for 5 years. "I'm here." She cried harder. "I'm sorry, Dad." I closed my eyes. "You're safe. I was horrible to you." "I know. I'm so sorry." I held her tighter. But forgiveness wasn't the same as forgetting. And love wasn't the same as fixing everything. Eventually, she pulled away. Her eyes were swollen. Can I stay here? I looked at her. The father in me wanted to say yes immediately. But the man I had become over those 5 lonely years knew something important. Yes. She exhaled. Then I added, but things have to change. She nodded. What do you mean? You can't come back into my house expecting me to rebuild your life. Her face tightened. I'm not asking you to. Not yet. She looked away. I continued. I'll help you get counseling. I'll make sure you have somewhere safe to stay. I'll help you figure out the legal mess Ethan left behind. She looked at me. But I'm not giving you money to replace what he took. She swallowed. Okay. And I'm not going to pretend the last 5 years didn't happen. Her eyes lowered. Okay. And you're going to learn how to stand on your own. She nodded slowly. Then she asked, do you still love me? That question nearly brought me to my knees. I reached for her hand. Claire, I never stopped. She started crying again. But this time, there was something different in her tears. Not panic. Not anger. Regret. Real regret. I thought that was the hardest moment of the night. I was wrong. Because when Claire finally looked at me again, she asked one question that made every muscle in my body tense. Dad, what did Ethan mean when he said he had something on you? I stared at her. She had seen something. Something I hadn't known about. And suddenly, I realized the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because Ethan hadn't only been hiding his crimes from Claire. He had been hiding something about me too. For a few seconds, I couldn't answer Claire. She was sitting on the bottom stair, staring at me. What's wrong? She asked. I looked toward the kitchen. The folder was still on the table. I walked over, picked it up, and opened the final pages. Claire followed me. What did Ethan have on you? I turned the document around. Nothing. She frowned. Then why did he say that? Because he wanted you afraid. I pointed to the page. This isn't evidence against me. It's a list of assets he was trying to gain access to. Claire stared at the numbers. Then she saw my house listed. Her expression changed. He wanted your house. Apparently. She covered her mouth. I nodded slowly. That's why the money was never the whole story. The $175,000 had been the first door. If I had signed the agreement and transferred the money, Ethan could have used that transaction to establish a financial connection with me. Then he could have pushed for more. Loans. Guarantees. Property. Whatever he could convince us to give him before the entire operation collapsed. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I brought him to you. No. She looked at me. I did. Ethan made his choices. But I believed him. Yes. The word hurt her. I could see it. So I softened my voice. But believing someone doesn't make you responsible for every lie they tell. She sat down. I don't know who I am anymore. I understood that feeling. Because 5 years earlier, I'd lost my daughter. Now she had lost the future she'd imagined. And somewhere between those two losses, we were sitting in the same house trying to figure out whether we could become a family again. I sat beside her. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. What am I supposed to do? Start small. She looked at me. How? Tell the truth. She looked down. To who? Yourself first. That made her cry again. I let her. I didn't tell her to stop. I didn't tell her everything would be okay. Because I couldn't promise that. Ethan had left behind victims, debts, legal problems, embarrassment, and a broken engagement. There was no magic sentence that could erase any of it. But there was something I could give her. A place to start. I helped Claire contact an attorney the following morning. Then I helped her find a therapist. Not because she was broken. Because she had spent years trusting the wrong people and pushing away the person who had loved her without conditions. She needed someone who could help her understand why. For the first few weeks, Claire stayed in my guest room. Not her old bedroom. She wasn't ready for that. Neither was I. We learned how to live around each other again. At first, breakfast was awkward. She would walk into the kitchen and stop. I'd look up from my coffee. Neither of us would know what to say. Then one morning she asked, "Do you still make those terrible pancakes?" I looked at her. Terrible? She smiled for the first time in days. You used to burn them. You ate them. I was 8. You had no standards. She laughed. It was a small laugh, but I hadn't heard it in 5 years. I looked down at my coffee because I didn't want her to see what that sound did to me. Over time, she began rebuilding. Not quickly, not perfectly, but honestly. She sold the expensive car Ethan had convinced her to finance. She canceled the luxury wedding plans. She stopped pretending everything was fine. She started working again. And she learned something that took me 61 years to understand myself. A person's worth isn't measured by what they can afford to buy. One evening, months later, I found Claire standing outside her old bedroom. The door was open. She was staring at the marks on the frame where I'd measured her height as a child. "You kept these?" I nodded. "Why?" I smiled faintly. Couldn't bring myself to paint over them. She ran her fingers across the pencil lines. There were dates beside them. 7 years old. 8. 9. 10. Then 14. The last one. She stared at it for a long time. "I remember this." "I do too. I was mad because you made me stand still. You were always moving." She smiled. Then her expression changed. "Dad." "Yeah. I'm sorry." I knew exactly what she meant. The 5 years. The insults. The silence. The money. The way she had looked at me across that restaurant table, as though I were nothing more than an account she could access. I didn't say it was okay. Because it wasn't. Instead, I said, "Thank you." She looked confused. "For what?" "For finally saying it." She nodded. Then she hugged me. And this time, I didn't hesitate. I held my daughter. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. But because forgiveness doesn't mean pretending the wound never happened. It means deciding that the wound doesn't get to control the rest of your life. Claire eventually moved into her own apartment. She paid her own bills, made her own decisions, and, most importantly, she stopped asking me to rescue her. Sometimes she still called when life got difficult. But now she'd say, "Dad, I have a problem. Can I tell you about it?" Not, "Dad, can you fix this?" That difference meant everything. One Sunday afternoon, we sat together at my kitchen table. The same table where I had first read her $175,000 message. She looked at me. "Do you ever wish you hadn't helped me?" I knew what she was really asking. Did I regret opening the door? Did I regret giving her another chance? Did I regret loving her after everything? I reached across the table and took her hand. "No." She smiled through tears. "But I wish you'd listened to me that night." "I know. And I wish I'd listened to you." I squeezed her hand. "That's enough for me." She looked toward the hallway. Then back at me. "Do you think we'll ever get back what we had?" I thought about that. Then I shook my head. "No." She looked hurt. I smiled. "I don't want what we had." She frowned. "I want something better." Her eyes filled. "Something honest. Something where you don't have to buy love. Something where you don't have to earn the right to be someone's father. Something where we can disagree without disappearing from each other's lives." She nodded. "I want that too." Outside, rain began tapping against the windows. The same sound I'd heard the night I drove away from that restaurant. Only this time, the house didn't feel empty. I looked at my daughter sitting across from me, and I realized something. For 5 years, I'd believed my job as her father was to save her. From bad decisions. From bad people. From consequences. But I finally understood that wasn't my job. My job was to love her. To tell her the truth. To help when I could. And when she refused to listen, to let her learn. Because sometimes protecting someone you love doesn't mean catching them before they fall. Sometimes it means standing close enough to help them stand back up. Claire didn't need me to rebuild the life Ethan destroyed. She needed the chance to build a new one herself. And I didn't need my daughter to repay me for the years I'd spent loving her. I just needed her to come home as my daughter. Not as a debtor. Not as someone asking for money. Not as someone trying to prove anything. Just Claire. My little girl. And after 5 years of silence, that was more valuable than anything she could ever put a price on.